Hey folks, the future is coming. Make it brighter with Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easy to turn your idea into a unique website, showcase your work, blog, or publish content, even sell products and services of all kinds in just a few clicks. You can customize everything from look and feel to settings and products using beautiful templates created by world-class designers. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code WTF to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. We're also sponsored by Spotify, which is making it easier for you to listen to the podcast you love. Just open the Spotify app on your mobile device or desktop, click on the Browse channel, then click on the podcast section. You'll be able to listen to this show and all your other favorites from your phone, your laptop, even your smart speaker. Stay thoroughly entertained during your commute to work or drive home, or when you need to distract yourself from those news alerts that just keep popping up on your phone. Thanks to Spotify. Okay, let's do it. Let's do the show. I believe this is going to be my last monologue from the garage.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucksters, what's happening? I'm Marc Maron. This is my podcast, WTF, as it goes and keeps going. How's it go? What's happening? What is happening? How are you? These words on this mic at this point in time, right now, and what follows here in the intro, not the interview. I'm going to be talking to They Might Be Giants in just a second. John Flansburgh and John Linnell are both here. The Johns are here, or we're here. But in the present, that would be after I talk to the Johns. These might be the last words I say in this structure. I put it off. They're going to show the house one more time right after I'm done talking here. And then I set out to purge the shelves and move the shit, folks. The plan is to move the shit, at the very least, to move the recording apparati to the new space, the new garage, on Friday. And if I'm ambitious, if I'm enjoying the pickup truck, I'm going to load it up and take the rest on Saturday, and we'll start broadcasting there from the clutter, from back like the old days. Back when this garage was just a garage. It's got to start somewhere. Yeah, before I get all this stuff on the shelves, it's going to be the mics at a table, just like we're starting over. But this is it. This is it. I'm making some decisions about the books. I'm thinking about releasing Gravity's Rainbow back into the used book ecosystem so someone else can put it on their shelf for a couple of decades with plans of embarking. But this is it. I'm looking around, and I'm ready to take it down. I'm ready to take the pictures off the wall. I'm ready. And I want to thank all you people for being here through this process of... Thank you for mediating the separation. A lot of people are interested in buying the house. I think that's going to happen pretty quickly, too. And I'm going to be moving not far, 6 miles away, into a new, slightly more spacious garage with a bathroom. I'm going to bring the foam from the ceilings, bring all the pictures and the books. Going to absorb some sound in there too. I'm going to refine the book collection. I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss it. Yep. But this is it. These are the words. All right. We're sponsored today by The Black Tux, which is the easy way to rent suits and tuxedos online. Look, I know from experience, I'm pretty sure most of you do too, that it's not fun to need a tux, but the Black Tux is changing all of that for everybody. It's just one less thing to have on your mind whenever you have a big event or occasion to deal with. You just place your order online and your suit will arrive 14 days before your event. Then wear it, do your thing, look like $1,000,000 and send it back 3 days after your event. Shipping is free both ways, whether you're going for a stylist selected outfit or building a custom look. The Black Tux has tons of suits and tuxedos to choose from, and they are always adding amazing new selections. Plus, with their new fit algorithm, you don't have to awkwardly measure yourself. The Black Tux does it for you. They'll even let you feel the fit and quality of your suit months before your event with a free home try-on. So look great and get rid of the hassles with the Black Tux. To get $20 off your purchase, visit theblacktux.com/WTF. That's theblacktux.com/WTF for $20 off. The Black Tux, premium rental suits and tuxedos delivered. Dig it. Did I mention to you, I think I mentioned briefly at the end of the last show that I watched all of the Stranger Things in 2 days in preparation to talk to David Harbour. I wanted to watch a few, but then I ended up watching all of them. And, for the first 5 or 6, it hit some triggers. I make the mistake of thinking that, that I'm not a fantasy guy, that I'm not, a sci-fi guy. But if there are kids involved and they're at an age where the emotions are raw and also they're socially awkward, it gets me right in the guts. And I'm emotionally attached. And I just thought the performances were amazing, but I locked in because of the kids. And, also because this kind of stuff. This is another reason why I learned about myself. Is I don't like watching sci-fi or reading sci-fi because it hits my shadow government button. It hits my conspiracy button. It reopens my portal into the what is it called? The upside down, which is the dark part of my brain. Cause, for about the first 5 or 6 episodes of Stranger Things, I was like, yep, this adds up. Makes sense. Adds up. I'm a little vague on how she manifested the whole, but, MK Ultra and stuff. I could see how this could lead to, the psychic phenomenon, then the symbiotic relationship of the psychic phenomenon with the actual parallel universe, that it's not just in your mind, but you think it is. But we all know, and I talked to David Harbour about it in an upcoming episode about the elves on the parameter, the elves on the periphery, the weird, faceless, tooth-filled monkey dogs that are just, kind of, just there. If you just look out the side of your eye, there's a little flickering going on. I know it's there. So it triggered that, but thankfully they didn't explore it thoroughly enough for me to get truly freaked out by my own thoughts about, what is reality. But, I was able just to enjoy it. So there you go. Not that it needs a great review from me, but, I just wanted you to know that, I am apparently a latent, sci-fi fantasy fan. I'm not ashamed of it. Cause I don't want to say that I am a real fantasy or sci-fi fan, because then I'd have to embark on that and, go to Comic-Con and decide which characters I'm going to dress up as, do cosplay. There's a lot of, it's not going to happen. I just wanted to say that I can open my heart to it. If the journey is, kids who are awkward rising above and, saving the world. Like, I can get into that. My heart feels that. I mean, I'm not dead inside, folks. So yeah. Okay. Everybody good? As I mentioned before, we're sponsored today by Squarespace. And if you're ready to start a new business, you better make it stand out with Squarespace. What do I mean by that? Well, if you make a website, you want it to represent who you are and what you do. You want it to be unique. You want it to be memorable. And that's what Squarespace is there for. They use world-class designers to create templates so you can choose the best possible look for your site, for whatever it is you want to do. Maybe it's a site for your new podcast, or maybe you're an artist and you want to show off your stuff in an online gallery, or maybe you want to sell your crafts and need an online store. You can do it all. And you will do it all with Squarespace. And all Squarespace sites are optimized for mobile devices, which means it looks great on whatever you're using. You should have no problem designing or updating your site, but if you ever have a question, Squarespace's award-winning 24/7 customer support is there to help. We use Squarespace to make WTFpod.com, and we love it. Love it. Destiny is calling, folks. It says you need a new website. Make it with Squarespace. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code WTF to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com, offer code WTF. This is it. The last of me talking in here. Oh God, no, I'm not going to cry again. Enough with the crying. So, listen, folks, They Might Be Giants. They're here, the Johns. Their most recent album is I Like Fun. It came out earlier this year, and you can get it wherever you get music. And I enjoy talking to the Johns, They Might Be Giants, a great deal. One of them, the larger John, is quite the chatterbox. Was that condescending? I had a good time. This is me and They Might Be Giants, John Flansburgh and John Linnell. John and John.
Sir.
Yes.
They Might Be Giants.
Here we are.
You're in my garage.
I know. This is exciting.
I'm glad
it's
we
like
got
to
be in your historic garage before it's turned over to the
you're one
Smithsonian Institution.
Well, the people really...
right next to Julia Child's kitchen.
Is it in there? Julia Child's kitchen?
Yeah, they have a reproduction of it. And by the way, if you do go, take a photograph of the wall because it has a fine wine list it has like a
the day.
It has a chalkboard of all the wines that she needs to buy.
Oh my God! And so it was
like
just
a little
there.
nice guide.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, some people thought I should do something with this place, but I don't know that. I guess it was culturally relevant. I don't know if it's historical in the big scheme of things.
Well, I mean, I've been
I'm not fishing for compliments either. I'm just throwing it out there.
Sure.
Hold on a minute.
Listen.
I want to get my tea.
Okay.
You guys got stuff. Where's mine?
We need our stuff.
We're talking like we're doing this already, but I can't tell.
I don't know.
Is this a thing that he does?
Mark has left the room. So
right. So have we started already? Are we okay? All right.
What do you think?
It's hard to tell. We just jumped right in.
Mark, I have to tell
I
you.
gave you more of an intro than I give anybody. I said John and John.
You did do that.
Those were
That's
extremely pro.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I just want to say I've been listening to the show really from almost day one.
Really?
Yeah. And nothing. I mean, I thought it was a very interesting show.
Yeah.
I remember actually recommending it to a bunch of people because I thought they could handle it. But
You can handle. He's a very needy broadcaster.
I have to say, I thought at first I thought like the WTF title was a huge governor on how popular it could ever be.
Yeah.
You know, you're not.
You thought it was a mistake, or
you're
it was
not.
good?
You're not getting it on NPR, but then you got it on NPR with a different title.
I know.
You're fooling everybody.
Well, then the title initially was a broad title for an unclear idea.
Right.
That in the first dozen or so shows we were kind of all over the place.
I remember the comedy bits.
Yeah, we had comedy bits.
Bits.
That guy Matthew, my friend Matthew, was in the room.
They were oblique.
Yes,
comedy bits. Like they did not land. There was no place to land for.
Oh, you mean the fake characters?
The fake characters.
Oh, that was here.
The third act.
The third act was here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys? The last time I saw you was at Fred's house. Mm-hmm. Fred Tomaselli, the artist.
Yes.
And I'd never met you before. And Fred's a dear friend of my girlfriend Sarah, the painter.
Yep.
And they're painters.
Who's fantastic.
Yeah, you like her?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I do too. She's painting now. But Fred is a hell of a guy, hell of a painter.
He's terrific. He's a very good friend of mine. I mean,
how long did you know
him? We've been sort of goofing around together since the late 80s, early 90s, I guess.
We actually all lived in Williamsburg at a time when if you met someone under 40 on the Bedford Avenue stop, you would stop them and say, hey, we should be friends, because there just weren't that many people around. To say it was bohemian in the true sense of the word, which is that like nobody would want to be that way.
Yeah. Where did you, so you guys both still live in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I live in Brooklyn. Yeah. Flans has moved to a secret location.
I spend most of my time in Sullivan County in the Catskills, near where the Woodstock event actually happened.
That's where you spend your time now?
Most of my time, yeah.
And but you would, if you're not there, you're at his house.
No, I have an apartment. I have an apartment in East Harlem that is nice.
Mm-hmm.
East Harlem. It can be revealed.
It can be revealed. I have not talked about it in public until.
Who
right
are you
now.
concerned is going to take that information and be bad with it?
Well, we're such a Brooklyn identified band that it's like it's a very weird thing to have left.
It's like me wearing glasses.
Right.
It's like you don't want it to be a big thing.
Right. As you evolve.
Yeah.
Because people who are committed to you, who have been with you the whole ride, are like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we were in Williams.
I don't know what to believe.
we weren't ready for the change.
Right.
Yeah.
I moved to Williamsburg in, I guess, 82.
Yeah.
Liddell moved there in, like, 83. And so, we were there for a very long run. And, of course, nothing in New York stays the same. And it just turned into this kind of Euro disco extension of St. Mark's Place. It was never my dream to live on St. Mark's Place.
Did it?
It is extraordinarily new. They've torn down everything and put up.
In terms of the way it looks.
They don't literally they haven't built a tunnel from St. Mark's to.
But like Eurodisco, when I lived in Astoria, behind, in the courtyard behind my building, there was a bar there called Boomerang. I think it was, I want to say Baltic. It wasn't Euro, but it was.
Oh, no, I mean, that Mark, that character on SNL, sort of like, real, like, high-end German,
I get it. Yeah. We're buying New York.
Not the original Polish restaurants.
Unka.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the Unkas with the strange, like, Middle
that
Eastern
stuff would
beat.
be.
That Middle Eastern beat?
I would be fascinated to live near that.
I can't even do it. It's like, it's not 4/4, it's something else. Mm-hmm. It's another thing that's kind of engaging.
The 16th, like 32nd.
Yeah.
It cannot be a beat that cannot be sung.
It's like Egyptian-y.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
You
guys are the scientists.
It's not the music. It's not the music that's the problem.
No, I get it. It's the people that own New York.
It's the lifestyle choices.
Well, let's go back, because I want to go back in the day, because I'm not getting nostalgic with my own life, but I think we must be around the same age.
Probably,
now.
yeah.
We're a little bit older than you, I think.
Are you really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Is that true? When did you show up in Astoria? When were you?
I think I was in Astoria. How's that going to determine my age?
I don't know. I'm triangulating. I'm starting by triangulating.
I think we ended up in Astoria in like 94, 95.
Okay, all right. So you were here before that, and
I was here in the late 80s for a couple of years. Then I went back to L.A.
Okay.
Back to New York in like 92.
You've lived almost everywhere.
Yeah, and then I went to San Francisco for a couple of years, but then I was back in New York like 92, 93, and then I dug back in 94, got married 95, got that place in Astoria, held on to it for a while.
Yeah, we were old guys by that time.
Is that the Jody Lennon place?
Yeah. I held on to that for a while. I think she's still in it.
She is.
Yeah, I ran into
with her asthmatic cat.
How's Stoley doing?
I think he's doing good.
They're both okay?
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, my wife is friends, so I'm not like close with them. I
see, like we do run in similar circles. Then I ran into you in a circle that I'm new to.
Right.
But I didn't know you, but I feel like we have similar friends. But I was sort of in a dirtier world than you, I feel like.
It's possible. Although we had more time to clean up, because we got to New York in 81, I think.
Yes.
Right? And we were probably 21, 22.
Oh, you are older than me.
We're definitely older than you. Yeah.
I'm 54.
I'm 58.
I'm 57.
Yep.
So but it's still generationally.
Yeah.
How many minutes before we're talking about the Beatles?
Huh?
How many minutes before we're talking about the Beatles?
No, you're not going to get that from me. Okay. I mean, I could see
all right then. The Rolling Stones.
That's fine. I can talk about the Rolling Stones. You know that.
You got 2 boxes to check off.
But you guys didn't grow up in New York.
No, I did partly.
I'm
going to yell that at you. You didn't grow up there.
I didn't. I still haven't grown up, but I lived in New York till I was 8. Moved to the suburbs of Boston, where John and I met.
Suburbs of Boston.
Of Boston.
Now that was
Metro West, as it's called now.
Right? Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's all the .com millionaires.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's all techie now.
What part are we talking about?
The Tom Schultzy part.
Oh, well. I got the Walkman right back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom Schultzy's Walkman.
No, he lived in the town of Lincoln.
We grew up in this beautiful town called Lincoln.
What's that near?
It's
near Concord and Lexington.
It's basically between. For a long time, it was unincorporated lands between like all these Revolutionary War towns.
Right.
And then I guess maybe I don't know when it was actually. It didn't have a school for a long time. There weren't that many people there. Lincoln. It's like 20 minutes west out of Boston, and it's a beautiful. It's where the Audubon Society is. I mean, it's that beautiful.
I miss it. Miss
it's a very pretty place.
You know, I did a lot of time in New England, but so
it can feel like doing time.
It can, but like when I was there, I was in college, so I was sort of oblivious to the nature of the city itself. And it wasn't until I started doing comedy where I realized, wow, it's pretty intense out here in some of these suburbs.
But well, there's a lot of ideas going around. But the thing that we were just talking yesterday or 2 days ago about the strange thing about Boston now, and I guess this is true of all cities everywhere, but like I was recently back in Central Square, which is a place I hung out a lot in the 70s.
Sure.
And Central Square, I mean, it wasn't Times Square filthy, but it was like taxi driver, cigarette butt.
It was
like,
the dirtier one.
It was an extremely dirty, like, it was definitely like, there would be like a trash can, and in the trash can, there would be a porn magazine.
Right.
It
right.
was that kind of place. Like, it was a very kind of raunchy.
But it was weird, wasn't it? Because
it was a morbidly obese kind of neighborhood.
Right, but people used to say, like, can you believe it's that close to Cambridge? Like, it's that close to Harvard Square.
Right.
But it was really only a few blocks. I mean, Central Square was
a 5-minute walk. 5-minute walk.
But it's very interesting about Boston and San Francisco to some degree, though it's a little more spread out, is that, like the zone, the combat zone, was like 4 blocks.
Right.
It was like nothing.
Oh, it's a tiny town for sure.
But
the thing is, it's also, that's all gone. Like when you go to Central Square now, it's just like a gigantic Old Navy.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's been erased.
Is the Middle East still there?
It is like the
club.
Yeah.
That's still there. That's still there.
TT the Bears.
I'm not sure about TT the Bears.
Is Calcutta the Indian restaurant?
The people there? we did a New Year's show or around New Year's show at TT the Bears and sold our audience bought so few drinks that the managers of TT the Bears asked that we never return.
Did you pack it though?
It was sold out. They sold like one beer.
That was Boston.
Yeah, but our audience,
you attract good people.
Our audience is a very sober crowd. But it was a night that like heavily relied on beers on like drink sales.
Sure. Like a bar, you mean? Like a club where you play music?
Well, but that's the thing is like like when you go from clubs to theaters, everything changes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like the dynamic changes because the promoters aren't looking to sell.
You're not in the business of selling drinks.
Right. So you're
in the business of selling tickets.
You can be a different kind of act.
Of course, you can be an act that plays at a place where you're proud to have your fans come. There's not going to be an element.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever had to deal with that.
We've had elements.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if we had elements in our Boston shows.
Well, I'm thinking it seemed like there was a stretch there. I'm almost positive my mother is going to hear this podcast, which is one of the disturbing things about the internet is that
she can just do it.
Your mom can
figure it out.
Your mom can catch up with you. Yeah. We just got an interview request from High Times.
Yeah.
They were like, they would just like you to discuss your life with drugs, like even in the past tense. Yeah. And I'm like, my mom's gonna. I don't know if I want to go.
How much of a life with drugs did you guys have?
I don't want to talk about it here. I don't want to talk about it here either.
but you're a grown ass man.
Yeah, but it's like, what
are you hiding from your mother, John? Maybe it's time to let it out.
Let me just speak to Polly Flansburgh now, if I could. There's nothing to talk about.
No drugs. Okay, I'll admit it.
Pretty much
I've done no drugs.
So that's what you're hiding.
That's what I'm hiding.
There is no mystery.
That's the part we don't want to get out. It's not John's mom that doesn't need to know.
Right. But anyway, I was just thinking back on the shows. We did a show at what was the place in Jamaica Plain that we played a bunch of times.
Oh.
It was like it was in early 90s. It was like
what was that
proto grunge moment. And the Pixies opened up for us, which was before they were famous, and it was an amazing show.
Yeah.
I thought that was Green Street Station.
Is that Green Street Station? Is that what it's called?
I believe that's what we played with the Pixies before their album came out.
Sure.
Yeah, they were a virtually unknown band, and it was like one of those things where, I mean, it was kind of like being in a club, and I mean, I've had this experience a couple of times. I saw Elvis Costello before his record came out, and it was a very similar thing. It was like in London.
Oh, yeah?
I saw his, basically
before the first record?
Yeah, before his first public show. And it was a very similar experience where you're just like, oh. Like, because, you see a lot of good bands.
Yeah.
You certainly, we've had a lot of we've had amazing openers and, very talented people. But like when you see something that's just like, oh, this is like something
bigger than we
completely, this is some musical unobtainium.
Yeah.
And, but the thing is, I think my mom came to that show.
Oh, and she said those boys look like druggies.
No, but then
look at that girl.
I'm not sure if it was a triple bill or if this was a show that
I think you're right. No, it was the same show, and there was a third act.
There was a third act. Okay, you describe.
And it was a man doing performance art, and he was dressed in a full body length vagina outfit. which
Was it Jonathan
completely for as far as our performances in New York. This would be like completely ordinary. Like,
was this in New York?
Yeah,
No, this is in Boston.
Bring the vagina guy out.
Yeah.
Right. He's on next.
They might be giants are on. We need a vagina. act.
Was it the Mangina?
Is that what it was? It was a Boston act. We don't know what, but
I don't remember what he was called.
I don't think it particularly went over. I mean, it was a very.
How could that go over? How's it going to go? Hey, what do you do for the second minute?
Right.
I think it was about he had raps, and
Right.
I forget what he talked about. But he was saying stuff about himself, and that was his outfit.
Ladies and gentlemen, Get It Off Me Productions introduces the man in the full size,
but
human
basically
size.
every time John's mom came out to see us, there'd be some appallingly transgressive thing, and it happened in New York.
It happened. The same thing happened in New York with the guy who
dressed as a giant cock.
That was actually that's too weird to talk about.
But the point is,
the one in New York's too weird to talk about.
The point is, I think she probably got used.
Your
to
mother
it
already went through it.
She became inured to the idea.
What happened in New York? You can't just say it's.
Well, it's also sort of an I don't know.
It was a guy with no arms wearing a dress who was doing performance art, and he was mostly in German. I think he was like saying stuff in German, and
that was the
and then he did and then his friend did a striptease while he was reciting stuff.
Was he the closer? Or they opened for you?
I don't.
It was on one of these bills where PS 122 in New York. They would have like 100 different acts.
It was a variety show.
Yeah,
but this is important because this is New York in 1982.
No, 89, 90.
Because this is it's sort of the end of that performance art.
Oh
thing.
Yeah.
We basically started. Like when we arrived in New York was like the new wave fad was which was in some ways kind of a hoax.
The resurrection of new wave.
No wave. Right?
No wave.
Sure. Like 1981, 82, there was like
Suicide.
Suicide musically fits in, but I don't even know if they ever even had any audience at all. The hot acts were like DNA, Lydia Lunch, the Contortions, which is a fantastic act. Swans were part of their. I think like Live Skull, maybe sort of like proto. Sonic Youth kind of stuff, Glenn Branca stuff. That stuff was all kind of getting a lot of notice, but the thing that was weird, the thing that they all had in common is that audiences hated it.
Yeah.
So there was like this weird void, and because of that, all these clubs that we were arriving in New York thinking like, we're just going to slide into, like I think we sort of thought like, we were new wave guys.
But were you
we were punk rock guys?
You put it together. So you grew up in Lincoln. You met in Lincoln?
Yeah.
You grew up together.
Yeah,
correct.
He's a year older than me, so we didn't really become friends until high school.
But do you remember? Oh, okay. So you don't remember him moving with his family?
Oh no, I remember
when he was 8.
I remember him when he was 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a small school.
I wasn't aware of John at that time.
The awkward kid who showed up. He remembers you because he did something terrible.
This is new information.
Oh,
no.
Really?
I mean, I didn't have like a strong. Trust me, you did not make a strong impression on me. Don't flatter yourself.
Hey,
but you remember when the new kid showed up?
When I showed up, everything changed.
Yeah. My whole life changed. No, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
But in high school, you became friends.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We both worked on the newspaper together.
Newspaper nerds.
Correct.
Yeah. So you were doing layout. You were doing what?
He was the editor of the paper.
We were writing articles, which were basically like one of the teacher advisors was like, you should just call this Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
He was right.
Why?
We were writing for ourselves.
Well, because the problem was, like, the function of most high school papers is to, like, write stories about, like, the football team.
Right.
But there was nobody on the paper who even could fit. Well, I mean, we did actually.
Didn't go to games?
We would get submissions of articles about what happened at the football game, and it was a good expository writing lesson to try to figure out how to write an interesting article about a football game that you hadn't seen. So that's a good.
That's a whole school of journalism in and of itself.
Yeah, it's like this was a fantastic game. And so I wrote some of those articles, I'll admit it.
And all right, so you're hanging out, and what's going on musically at that time? This is 76, 77?
Yeah,
it's like
in there. I had started playing piano, just teaching myself, and John owned a tape recorder.
Oh, very important.
But was not a musician.
I'm sort of obsessed with sound.
Yeah, I get that. So like a regular tape recorder or a 4-track? Or
I saved up like summer job money to buy a Tascam 3340.
Oh, yeah.
4-track simul-sync tape recorder. Most importantly, there were no drum machines, which is really the key element to...
So you had to record
Yeah, if you did anything with a pulse, if you had something with a pulse, you'd have to find a pulse-making thing or make your own.
Right.
You could concoct... And also, a lot of times you would do stuff with like tape loops.
Yeah.
And because it's a loop, you can kind of create like a pulsing thing out of the loop.
Yeah, I knew a guy that was very into layering things and doing. I remember we did a recording at his house on something similar to that, and he did a drum loop on playing with the sticks on a guitar case and just like layered that in.
Absolutely.
Right.
God, it's so good. But
it comes up against this idea that I think is sort of like there's a lot of. I mean, this idea comes up on your show a lot, which is the thing that's more fun to do than it is to experience as an audience.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with that kind of music, like the bedroom rock in general, is it's really fun to make, but it's not particularly fun to listen to.
But now when you say bedroom rock, you're talking about, like Brian Eno.
That's anybody.
I mean, anyone's working in their studio
it felt like it didn't feel that different than probably Brian Eno in some ways. I mean, I think Brian Eno's probably better at it than
he's got a nicer bedroom and probably nicer equipment.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how good how much it matters, like how good the equipment is.
No, I think you're right. I think the excitement of discovery that you can do when you get a handle on that technology has got to be just mind blowing. I mean, just like if you have that kind of focus,
it's
you're
completely magical.
You're in all day. You're in.
It's super.
Exactly.
There's nothing more fun. Yeah.
So you met him and he had the Tascam.
He had the tape recorder. I had a few years into our friendship, two things. I started playing with a new wave band, and you picked up a guitar that your friend had given you which had only 3 strings.
Yeah,
and started to teach yourself just the first 3 strings.
This is one of those this altered guitar sort of discovery invention.
Well, not intentionally. I think it was more like you only had 3 strings, and so you started with that.
Well, it was also I had.
You didn't know it needed more.
Well, I could make chords with it, and that was all I felt like I really needed.
That's not even a full ukulele.
No, it was but it was sort of like punk rock Amnesty Day. Like it was 1977. Like there was, I remember you
don't need all the strings. For punk rock.
I saw the Sex Pistols. Like our friend Jimmy, who was like a big Cream magazine kind of. I feel like Lester Bangs is kind of like, if you just think of Lester Bangs, he's like the Lester Bangs of our personal life.
Right.
Like he introduced us to
you
a
had
million
to have
things.
one at that time.
Like he played us like Patti Smith's Piss Factory, and he played us like the Ramones. Like I the first time I heard the Ramones was like in his attic room. And he had a copy of the Ramones, and he's
how great was that?
You've got to listen to this.
Yeah.
Like we fell out. It's just like, this is the most insane... because part of it that was so great was that it was incredibly...
Never happen again.
It was incredibly powerful music.
It'll never happen again.
It was incredibly powerful music. And also, there's this part of it that's like, is this a joke?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
and the combination of like, is this a joke? And it being so good.
Right.
It's like, what they're talking about is so fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's like
sniffing glue and
I mean, it's just like all and it's like without no apologies. They're not bragging.
Yet because of the type of music it is, it almost sounds like novelty music.
Yeah, well,
but it rocks so hard.
It rocks so hard. I mean, it's not. And I mean, it asks a lot more questions than it answers. That's
but I like that. That's an interesting sort of reaction to the Ramones. Like, is this a joke? But like then you realize how hard it's rocking. It's like undeniably not a joke.
There's a great cassette tape of that Danny Fields made of Lou Reed that was recorded in a recording studio right after Danny Fields played him the Ramones.
Yeah.
And it's a very similar thing.
Yeah.
And like Lou Reed is just like, that's it. I'm done. We're done. It's over. Forget it. They nailed it. They did it. And it's like this, it's like, what?
Yeah.
You think about Lou Reed, like Lou Reed is the guy who does like the press conference in Japan with like 800 people there. Yeah. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. What are you people doing?
But Lou Reed had this. He had an advantage over us, which is he kind of came from that same world.
He invented something.
But he also came from the working class New York thing.
Oh, that's right.
And so part of the mystery for us was like, we're these suburban kids who are like, what are these guys doing? But
on some level, like, there has to be this timeline where Lou Reed knows that without him, that whole thing down there doesn't happen.
I'd be curious to know how much he credited himself.
I don't think sound-wise, but certainly in terms of pushing the envelope and pushing it in New York, and making room.
But
for
also,
things.
I think New York also just grows stuff like that.
I think that's true.
You know,
I think that's true.
So,
it just grows Ramones.
Right.
There are a lot of Ramones.
But also, I mean, I think musicians often, nobody wants to admit it, but like they will feel competitive with their contemporaries.
Sure.
And nothing is like as much like when you play a rock festival. It's like behind the scenes, it's like, well, who won?
Dude,
I'm sure it's the same.
I don't do it with comedy much because it's not fair in the sense that
because you're lying to yourself.
No, because after a certain point, you realize that certain comics with certain audiences are going to do certain things.
Right. Of course.
I think that's the same with music. But last night I went out and I rarely play publicly. And I took my Les Paul Deluxe.
Oh, you played music publicly?
Jimmy Vivino.
Oh, he's a very generous guy.
Hey, Jimmy?
Yeah.
He's
great.
a
Nice guy.
Well, he does a night out in Burbank at this joint. And he said, come down and play a couple. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And, and there's all these old dudes, these old guitar players, and they're just around, hanging out. And I definitely felt that, like, God, I hope I can get it up for this. Like, I hope I can land this thing, just so I don't feel like I'm, like impotent. There's an almost biological challenge to it that you want to at least show up for yourself.
Right.
And it's not in losing. I knew I was going to lose, but if I could honor what it is that I do, as rough as I do it, and it's mine, then I did all right.
That's interesting. Well, I think we take more of like an auteur approach, where we can not necessarily, do the thing you're talking about. Yeah.
We can suck pretty hard.
We can suck, but we're hiding behind our ideas.
No, but the thing is that no matter what you guys do, I think it's very similar. Is that you've created this world for yourself, a sound, a tone, a voice, a structure. You're undeniably
we've got a brand. Wait,
I don't know why I call it a brand. Yeah. Why not call it a
universe?
Or just like a voice.
We've got a voice.
I want a universe.
You do have a voice.
I'll take it.
Because you're like after 2 seconds of one of your songs, you're like, they might be giants. You can't. There's no denying it.
But I think like the thing
isn't that what you're trying to do though?
I think we're trying to do a lot lot of different things.
No, I mean at the beginning.
Well, I think even at the beginning.
So the thing about it is though is that we're doing this for ourselves. Primarily like we're trying to impress ourselves, and I think part of it is like, how you don't necessarily recognize yourself in the mirror. Like you're so used to your
getting harder.
Yeah,
right. Dad.
But you know what I mean. Like you're so used to your own thing that what you're really trying to do is try and expand on it as much as possible. So I don't think, in other words, I think that we, for example, we'd been doing this for what was it like 20 years when before we started doing, we made our first children's record. And one of the reasons we waited so long was we didn't think we didn't want to confuse anybody,
What do you mean?
That they'd think, oh, this is what they are. Yeah.
We didn't want people to think that we had fundamentally changed our act.
Well, but let me ask you something though. I mean, the interesting thing about the timing of that, though, looking at it, is that given that your fans are generally decent people who don't drink, I'm sure that most of them have families. And
a lot of them do. Yeah, sure.
That generation of I think.
Well, we have a very
kids?
Yes.
You both have kids.
I do not have kids. I have two cats.
Yeah, I have cats. 3 cats, no kids. I'm with you. But you must have known these kids need things, and it'd be nice to entertain them.
Well, John and I did discuss this from the position of like kids deserve not just that
good pop music,
kind of classic like condescending like. Blah blah blah. This is good enough.
Yeah,
Right.
When you do a kids album, like people come out of the woodwork telling you like how you should do it. They're like it's like the part in The Graduate where the guy says plastics.
Yeah,
it's like that. They're like dinosaurs. I'm telling you, kids love dinosaurs. and it's true. Kids do love dinosaurs. And one of our most popular songs is about dinosaurs, written by our bass player. But the truth is, like, I think what we wanted to do. And John sort of nailed this in one conversation we were having about it, which is like the way people adults like The Soprano. We want to write kids music that like appeals to kids the way The Sopranos appeals to adults.
Like they're just waiting for the next song.
It's just like it's surprising. You know, something that's surprising.
Okay, I get it, yeah.
Something that like captures their imagination, that takes them to somewhere else. That isn't just like about like fortifying them with like vitamin enriched information,
or like a morality tale about a dinosaur.
Yeah. You know, it's just
the
like
dinosaur that broke its foot.
Not everything that kids experience has to be good for them, and I think that was sort of our little breakthrough. I think.
Oh, you're like, we're gonna do the kids album for the dark stuff, you know, for the stuff that they're gonna be a little uncomfortable with.
It doesn't have to be nutritional. I think
it doesn't have to make them better at being kids.
Oh, I see. Or they don't have to learn.
Yeah, they don't. Exactly. It doesn't have to be.
They don't have to learn.
And even the records we've done that are, you know, in air quotes like educational. They're still, I mean, they're just interesting records. I mean, it's just, and we dedicate a lot of production value and a lot of time, and like we take on those projects very seriously, which is the other thing is that the more you do educational, the more you do kid stuff, you realize what a world of hacks. The rest of, I mean, a lot of people doing
it's a racket
kid stuff.
Sure.
It's just like, well, I couldn't do the real stuff, so I did some kid stuff.
Oh, really?
Like,
and a lot of them find success in that.
Oh, you can find tons of success.
That's the cliche anyway. Like that's, you know.
But I mean, once you get a break with a kid thing, like it's not like the Wild West. Not like anybody can just make a fortune doing kid stuff.
I don't know about fortunes, but you can certainly. I mean, there's a whole regional kids music making.
Well, yeah, I had Zane's in here from the Del Fuegos,
right?
And he's like the world music kids guy,
right?
Like, and he
makes great kids albums, though. I mean, he
makes he uses great musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's go back before we get to exploiting children for money. Let's
we'll come back to the exploiting kids.
That'll be hour 2.
No, because I think that like I said at the beginning, the time that you guys sort of surfaced was a very exciting and changing time in music. So you're in a band now in Lincoln, a new wave band.
Well, yeah, it's in Boston. Moved out to Boston.
And what year is this? 77.
This was 79.
So you moved to Boston.
Moved to
play
Boston.
Music.
Yeah.
Where were you living?
Everywhere. You know, like when you're a certain age, you just move every month, basically.
Yeah. Where'd you sort of land it though? Like, because you're talking about Central Square. You remember Kenmore Square, dude?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that place is just nothing.
He played in Kenmore Square many times at the In Square Men's Bar.
In Square Men's Bar?
Yeah, the Mundanes. The Mundanes were a huge. He was in a band called the Mundanes.
The Mundanes.
New wave band. Yeah.
And they were based out of Providence, Rhode Island. They were a big, like brown, rizzy kind of band. And this is right after like the Talking Heads had blown up. So there was like this whole sort of like.
So we got to be the
Providence.
opening act for every new wave thing that came through Providence.
Through Providence.
Yeah. So we opened for the Ramones and the Talking Heads because there was nobody else that was appropriate.
And this was in the late 70s.
Late 70s.
But the post new wave thing, like the early, like late 70s, early 80s stuff, spawned some of the weirdest, most mutant kind of ideas because everyone was like, all right, we've done this short song thing. That and this weird hardcore, like post slam dancey, post skinhead, post oi thing. There was like sort of like what I guess like the guy who just died from The Fall, like that kind of music kind of
What's
was
his name?
really
Mark
E. Smith.
But like I remember New Wave really set out to kill disco because I was in junior high. I mean, you guys were out already, but like we had a real problem with disco.
Yep.
You know, in 76, 75.
Oh, see, we kind of loved
You were
disco.
out.
We kind of loved
I like it now. I mean, I can listen to it and I can respect it. And I have Bee Gees records and Donna Summer.
Well,
you always liked it?
No, I would say for me it was treacly horrible stuff until somewhere around I Feel Love by
I Feel Love was a real game changer.
Yeah, that was Donna Summer. Yeah,
that's something else.
But Giorgio Moroder did the
produced
production.
it. Yeah.
So had this very German kind of
the bass line.
Kraftwerk.
Yeah.
I didn't get into Kraftwerk till like a year ago.
Jimmy Mack also played us Kraftwerk for the first time. He played us
true.
Kraftwerk and the Ramones. So he laid out your life for you.
He was the source.
He was huge.
It's a shame he's passed away, but he was the sort of the Holy Ghost.
Did you send him Christmas cards every year? Like thank you notes? Hey, dude, thanks.
Oh, we did. We dedicated our first album to him, actually.
Yeah.
Jimmy what?
Jimmy Mack. James McIntyre. He's like an incredible guy. Like he just he had really
Kraftwerk and the Ramones. He was
open.
like, you guys ready?
Yeah.
He wrote all the music reviews in the newspaper.
School paper?
School paper. And
so he was notorious.
But he was writing music reviews about music I would think that was very not popular.
No. I mean, he would write about the popular stuff as well. He was very Lester Banksy.
Yeah, exactly.
I think like, the whole thing of growing up in the 70s and the time that we did, there were a lot of cultural things that barely even scan now that were so influential, like just the idea of freeform radio.
Oh, yeah.
We make these records that have a lot of different musical styles.
Yeah.
And we started without a drummer.
Right.
But and so we were like very free to do any kind of rhythms we wanted to do, or any like make arrangements big or small. But I think also just growing up with BCN, where they would have the playlist would be this wide open thing where you'd be listening to stuff from the the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. It didn't matter what era it was.
Yeah, it was militant. I mean, they play like the Rite of Spring and stuff.
Yeah.
They played. It was
they were all over the late at night too.
Very wide.
Who's the late night
They were
guy?
out, but it was like late night all the time there.
I know.
I mean, it was like it was. They were out to blow your mind. Like, they really wanted to change your expectation of what was happening on the radio. And
How great was that?
And like, I think it's almost impossible to describe. I mean, it's like saying like there was a time when I mean, I'm not saying it was
children.
Right.
Gather around.
I'm not saying it was necessarily the best radio ever made, but it was so different than. It's almost inconceivable to me now that somebody would do that.
Well, the mainstream was so defined and so market driven.
Yeah.
So to get out from under Bob Seger. At any given point in time, was sort of a chore.
Which they played Bob. It would be hard. I imagine like it maybe wouldn't be that impressive to hear it or to see the playlist now. It's like we talk to the younger members of our band about watching Laugh-In when we were kids.
Oh yeah,
and they're like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Like, why do you?"
It's like it was never funny, and
it was never funny. I was like, no, it was funny.
Actually, at a moment, it was. I mean,
it was mind blowing.
Yeah,
it's hard to get your mind blown so much now.
Yeah,
and like the Cars were a huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Cars' second show because Jimmy Mack took me to it.
Right, so that was a big shift.
Much better when you couldn't understand the lyrics.
Oh yeah,
well, and also amazing when you couldn't understand the lyrics.
Also, they didn't have like the big 3-part harmonies. It was the live show was very different before their first album,
but they were very well rehearsed. And a lot of the new wave, a lot of the bands at the Rat, I would go to every weekend. I would go to the Rat in '77 with my big.
Do you remember Mitch?
I had a fake WBCN ID, and so I could just get in. I think I was 15 years old.
Yeah,
but I could get into every show with my fake. Jimmy worked at WBCN as a promo guy.
Yeah.
And I would get into the show, and we'd get really good seats. We'd be like the first people there.
You go downstairs.
Yeah, go downstairs.
Yeah.
I had my cassette tape recorder.
Yeah.
I'd record everything.
Really?
And and I saw the Cars, and they were shockingly good.
Well, yeah, and going into the basement of the Rat was pretty exciting.
Oh, it was super fun.
You got to play the Rat? I
played
imagine.
Well in the Mundanes. We played the Rat. Yeah, and I can't remember if we
that horrible back dressing room.
We never played the Rat.
I guess the Giants never played there. But,
why? Because it was
for people.
You were around then.
I think we actually because we were out of New York. Our real club days were in New York City. I mean, we played every club in New York constantly from like.
Okay, so he's in the Mundanes. When does the thing start?
The Mundanes moved to New York to make it big.
From Providence.
From Providence.
Yeah.
I moved from Ohio, where I'm going to Antioch College to Pratt Institute to get a degree in fine arts.
Yeah.
And
what fine art?
Painting, printmaking, and then so we move into the same building, which is filled with our friends from Lincoln and Sudbury.
By coincidence?
No.
Well, it's just
that's how the people that we knew in New York.
You know one person, you say like, is there an apartment opening up? It's like, yes, there is. It's in the worst building in Brooklyn.
Right.
But we're all there.
There's plenty
Which,
of,
by the way, is now entirely unaffordable by any of us.
Of course.
It's in Park Slope.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's in Park Slope, but like at the time it was on a block with like 1/3.
Where you sit there going like, we're not even really in New York.
I think we kind of like Brooklyn, actually.
Yeah.
I think even then, even though it was scary, it was super high crime and scary. And, and as John was about to say, a third of the buildings on the row had actually been torched by the landlords to collect the insurance.
It was that post-Fort Apache moment where a lot of landlords' buildings were
mid-70s?
Late, like 1980, 81. Was
really?
There was a huge amount of flight out of Brooklyn, and so the buildings became too expensive to me. They didn't want to pay for just paying for the insurance or the mortgage was killing landlords. So they would just burn the building down, and it was a little bit of, lightning would strike these buildings.
Sure.
And so the block over from us was like the heroin.
Thank you for not saying Jewish lightning.
Well, people use all sorts. There's also Italian lightning.
Yeah,
there's,
good.
insert your racial, your racist epithet here. So.
It was ethnic lightning.
Ethnic lightning was everywhere. And so, like, the heroin district was right next door to us. And, like, I would look out the back, I was in a railroad apartment looking out my window, and there would just be garbage can fires, like, every single night. I'm like, why do those people want to light those garbage cans on fire? Like, what's going on out there?
The dope fiends were down there. They were there.
That was the district.
They were all like, I lived on in Alphabet City. It's just like there were very defined heroin neighborhoods. All over the city.
Yeah. Well, you want to know where you are.
It's a big business. It was a big business.
So that
brought you guys together.
That put us back in the same place.
Yeah.
And then we started sharing equipment. I still had my tape recorder with me.
I think we actually started doing recordings even when I was still in this other band.
Yeah.
And John was in school, and then gradually that just started to seem like, well, this is more interesting.
On the Tascam?
On the
TIAC,
Tascam. On the TIAC, yeah.
On the TIAC?
It was a TIAC.
Oh, a TIAC, sorry. So, what were you playing? Who was playing what?
Well, John had a Moog synthesizer, which we could then create a pulse with, and we sort of construct these rhythm tracks on the 3 tracks, bounce them down to 1.
Yeah.
And then we'd play along, and then maybe add a couple
of overdubs.
Of
like tambourines and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
we just had like sort of pots and pans, and so we just kind of create these tracks that we would then play. We would rehearse to these tracks, and we
rehearse what?
Songs. Like we would write songs to these rhythm tracks.
I get it. Yeah.
So we were like a 2-man band.
Yeah.
And then
you were playing guitar?
I was playing the guitar. I'd sort of learned how to play the guitar. Although right when we started, I couldn't sing and play at the same time, which is an idea that really blows my mind. Like, it was that raw.
It's hard.
I mean,
it's like juggling.
Yeah. But now, then the drum machines started coming in very soon after that, like just emerging.
Yeah.
Chris Butler from the Waitresses actually lent us his DMX drum machine, which is the sound of like King of Rock by Run DMC. It's like all the drum sounds. The snare sound is, and the kick drum sound is. So everything you do on it, like it's like you want to do a ballad. How about right?
But it was very synthy, right? In other words, it was not samples. It was like the tom-tom was like do. It wasn't a recording of a tom.
It wasn't so it was a drum machine. Emphasis on machine.
Right. They hadn't done the sampling thing yet. Because I remember when that happened, everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
Exactly.
It meant everything.
We saw it was like a truck coming towards us because that was developing while we were doing this thing. And it was kind of
you were excited.
We were very excited,
yeah.
and we were very excited to be in a 2-man band because the truth is, like, John had been in bands. I was in other bands in college with people, and it's hard to be in a band. It's hard to, everybody has this sort of like, it's a democracy, sort of, maybe you're with like a visionary person who's got a very clear idea of how to do something great. But the push-pull of a band can make you feel like you're doing something sort of mediocre. Like it's very, like, it becomes you learn like the problem of things made by committee very quickly being in a band. And I think for both me and John, we wanted to do something that had like no compromises. Like even if it's the most fragile, indefensible idea, like let's just do something that is just like for ourselves that satisfies us.
Well, it was fortunate that you guys thought the same way, I guess. Cause you're saying you didn't fight each other.
I think we convinced each other. I think there was sort of like,
I think we made each other braver.
Yeah, individually and certainly in my earlier bands, I was like, I got to figure out what people want, and do that. What is it? What do they want? And then eventually John and I like discussed and we're like, fuck that, we're gonna
you don't really need
do
to
a thing
care
we
about
like.
what people want.
Yeah.
Let the people come to us. Well, and then the weird thing is, so we kind of like,
But did you think at that time we're sort of like, we're doing things that we cannot perform live?
There was, yes. That was a part of that was something we wanted to make sure we didn't do too much of. We didn't want the tape, we restricted the tape to just be rhythms and a bass line. And we didn't really have too many things that were like sound effects driven or like, we even though it was years before Milli Vanilli, I think we had an awareness that we didn't want the track to like overwhelm what we were doing on stage. So we kind of had a little bit of a governor on what was on the track. But to be perfectly honest, and I think I realized in the fullness of time, our impression was for a lot of people was not the same.
What do you mean?
We thought we were a real band. I mean, like we thought there was no shortcoming to what we were doing.
I think maybe, because I remember discussing this. At some point, I said something about how like quaint the drums were, and you were like, "What are you talking about?"
Right. I mean, personally, as the guitar player in the band, like I felt like we were we were AC/DC, man. Like, we were like rocking. Like when we were really rocking out, we were rocking out as hard as anybody rocks out.
Yeah.
And it was like totally visceral and physical and real.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was like a drum machine behind us, like, yeah, there's a drum machine behind us because drum machines are the coolest things in the world. Like, you wish you had a drum machine. You just got a drummer. We've got a drum machine.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't get high before the show.
Yeah.
Deal with that.
I remember John saying this thing about like somebody who'd seen Van Halen playing in one of the earliest gigs at a tiny club,
right.
and they were playing as if they were playing in a gigantic
yeah,
stadium,
sure,
like right from the beginning,
right?
And how crazy, like how deluded you have to be to convince yourself that that's, you know.
Yeah.
But then that carries you, you know, then people get the three guys watching are like, I just saw the most awesome show.
I mean, and then the truth is
it like your Pixies moment where you're like, oh my God, this is bigger than life. But they were doing something no one
They were doing
really
something. They were doing something else. But you know, the truth is like our luckiest break is that, you know, even though we had made the decision that we weren't going to sort of, you know, try to calculate what audiences want. I mean, I think there are a lot of performers and a lot of songwriters who do a really good job of like, they do a very good job of figuring out what satisfies people. Even though we had kind of put that on the shelf, audiences took to what we were doing almost right away. I think they saw, maybe they saw a lot of themselves reflected in what we were doing, like that we, you know, we might not have reminded them of Mick Jagger, but we probably reminded them of their, like, you know, crazy creative brother.
It's hard to reconstruct what people made of it,
but it went over. I guess.
Yeah, it definitely went over.
Well, you found your audience pretty quickly.
Yeah,
immediately.
It began with friends. You know, we had friends come to see us,
and this before the first record.
Yes. There was a long interval before,
and there was a little, you know, as you know, there was like a little scene in the East Village, and so it turned out it wasn't CBGB, it was these performance
spaces,
the Pyramid Club, HC, Dorinka,
those places.
The Pyramid where?
Pyramid Club on
Avenue A.
Avenue A.
I know that
was wildly successful at the time. I mean, the mid '80s scene was like when performance art was really happening. And we folded into that perfectly.
Like the second generation of the performance artists. So
not Soho, like loft performance art.
Right.
This was much more gonzo. Like there was a lot of drag. There was a lot of really transgressive stuff that I would invite my mother to.
Right.
Yeah. And then there were these campy musicians and things that...
Who were some of the other ones?
I mean, we did shows with the bands that made it out, the bands that made it out of there, like, you know, were Live Skull, Butthole Surfers, you know, I mean, Sonic Youth, but a lot of
You're very different from them.
Yeah,
I mean, you're almost like musically the opposite.
We would be like, you know, we'd be like at the top of the bill, and they would be at the end of the bill. So they'd have performance art in the middle. The performance art was the big draw.
Right,
those things. So
it'd be like Karen Finley was the headliner.
or Popo, or you know, something.
I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, but I'm just
scene.
trying to frame. So
it was not a rock scene.
So right, but what you were doing were sort of finely kind of crafted pop songs with it.
There was we had a lot of transgressive stuff in the beginning,
like
when we
what?
started. These screamy songs that really went over great, but like on record, they sound unlistenable.
Wait, you guys telling me that you did like noise rock, like no wave kind of?
Not quite. Well, I mean, it was musical, but also it involved, like, John had a gigantic, and we've still done this recently. He had a tree trunk that he would bash on the stage,
which was mic'd,
which had a mic on it.
Sounded great.
And we did, you know, like I think we were like trying to fit in to some extent. We did a thing where we had an egg.
Kind of art rock?
We had an egg that spoke to the audience, and then we did a magic trick where we crushed the egg.
Right, so you had a comedy bit.
It's kind of, I don't know if it was funny, but we smashed the egg.
It was not.
It started singing, and we smashed it, and then it continued singing. That was that's what I remember of that particular.
So you had an act.
It was an act.
It was all very much an act.
Yeah, it was an act.
I mean, you know, in those clubs, props didn't mean what they mean in like a comedy
I'm just
venue.
trying. I know. I'm not.
I mean,
I'm
that's
not,
the weird thing is that it recontextualized everything. It like really reshuffled it.
But there was always a comic element to a lot of performance art, whether they wanted to be there or not. And that's not in a mocking way. Is that when you go over the top, whether it's with drag or with cans of yams or nudity, whatever you're going to do, that you're elevating something to a burlesque.
You're right. A lot
kind.
of people thought the Karen Finley yam thing was funny.
Yeah.
It was transgressive and it was funny,
well,
even though she was deadly serious and actually acting out a lot of serious issues.
Yams is a funny word. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But the thing is that environment was sort of allowed anything. It was completely permissive.
Right.
So and it was permissive to the degree where if you didn't take chances that were somewhat extraordinary, you were a bore.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It was very sensationalist.
Yeah.
And the thing that was interesting about coming up as an act at that time, and we played every weekend, like 84, 85, 86. I've got a calendar of like all the shows we did. We played virtually every weekend, at least one show, sometimes two.
Right.
Which was an insane thing in New York City. Like there were so many venues to do this stuff and such a huge audience. There were so many venues of 100 people, 150 people, and they just wanted something new. They wanted something different, and it was not a rehearsal. It was not a showcase club. There was no notion that anyone was careering.
Right. There
was no end destination. There was no final place that you would go. Like it's not like and what do you call your act? Like it was just the thing that was happening in that moment.
Yeah.
You weren't auditioning.
And also
anything.
you were like, it's an odd, did you have the,
accordion? Yeah.
So you had the accordion then. So you had a physicality. You had a strange lack of instruments. You had an old instrument.
Yeah.
You had the clever lyrics and a look. So you were part of the freak show.
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess so. Not we weren't
not in a bad way.
We didn't feel.
No.
Yeah.
I think we didn't feel like as big freaks as probably some people thought we were.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think we felt like our side was winning.
Yeah. Well, it did.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that you were sort of ahead of the curve in, like that an audience, whatever audience you built around you initially, and whatever audience came from the first hit records that you had, that, whatever culture has become now in this sort of nerd, the broader nerd branding world, you were ahead of the curve on that.
I guess, although in some ways I feel like that a lot of that stuff, like the stuff we've been talking about that scene, is like so gone now.
No, I know, but like once you guys started making sweet songs, that and the sweet people started coming to see you and not drinking, that was sort of a precursor to what became a dominant force in culture.
Yeah. It's definitely no longer a UFO. I mean, it's
sure.
We can play a song, and
it's something it's something that can be described.
I feel like when we talk to younger bands, we realize like a lot of young people are not worried about this, any of these issues about like selling out and stuff like that we were obsessed with at that.
Selling out in terms of like, maintaining your integrity?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like the idea of integrity seems to have gone away.
That's gone now, right?
No, that now they call it authenticity, and it's a little more flexible.
Yeah, authenticity.
You can actually hold on to your authenticity and compromise your integrity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do we do that? We got to learn how to do that.
I remember seeing like an ad. I remember seeing the Red Hot Chili Peppers very early on in their career. And we had gotten actually the very first record offer we got was from the label that they were on.
Which label?
I think it was EMI, which was like I think one of the most coke-fueled labels of that era. And they were not a particularly successful act, but they obviously had like an incredible look.
Who, the Peppers?
The Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And they did an ad for I think Nike or some sort of on trend Swatch.
Yeah.
Some hipsterish kind of big 80s thing. They did a television ad, and I was like watching TV. I'm watching like the Phil Donahue show, and all of a sudden the Red Hot Chili Peppers were on television, and the Ringo sexual in me just was like, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, you gave away your cool card.
Right. You now I was thinking like, well, now the Red Hot Chili Peppers will like never be able to work again. and it was, sort of climbing down from that preset to like where we are now, where people just think like that's the best thing that could ever happen to you would be to be in a Nike commercial. It's so it's such a hard. I mean, I don't feel old. I feel like I am from another world.
Extinct, right.
Like
What do you remember when the Del Fuegos did that Miller commercial?
that was a contentious thing.
That was a big deal. Actually,
That was a contentious thing.
Because they chose them to represent Boston.
Well, we had a weird. You see, part of that was weird is that I think the what is the word frisson was that it was about authenticity.
Right.
So like it was like you don't want the topic to be authenticity in the thing that scans as a commercial.
Yeah. Right.
So it's a little bit
Yeah.
little bit difficult.
But that sort of ended that.
a heavy
didn't
lift.
Well, I don't know, but we perceived it as a bad move at the time.
Yeah. Because you were around?
Because we had those concerns, like we were.
But everything there were so many everything was gatekeepers. Everything was like who approves you.
But we
couldn't even play it. We couldn't play at all these places. We couldn't get reviews. When we started, the New York Times would not review any show south of 14th Street.
Really?
The New Yorker would not review any. Yeah, because we promoted our own shows and we would like solicit that, just to get a listing. We knew it would sell tickets.
Right.
And like, you call up the person who like does just the preview section and say like, we're playing, at the Cat Club.
We're playing at Shitnick's,
the
which
Cat Club.
you've never heard of.
Right, we're playing at PJ Shitnick's, and we're wondering if you'd list our show. Like, we're doing really well, we're selling out, blah, blah, blah. Like, sincere, like, I'm just like a 25-year-old talking to another 25-year-old.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'd love to help you, schmo, but we do not list shows below 14th Street. When you're north of 14th Street, we will.
What the fuck is north of 14th Street?
That was the dividing line because.
No, but I don't even know what's north of 14th.
What would they be reviewing?
Everything. Everything. Rock clubs that adults go to.
The Beacon.
Right, places that hold 1,000 people.
So when did it change for you guys?
Well, that didn't change till after we were playing at the Beacon before that changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that all changed in the 90s.
But how'd you get the first record deal?
Glenn Morrow, who just put out a really great record of the Replacements recently.
The live one in Hoboken?
Yeah,
that one?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think we might have opened the night that we might have been the opening act on that bill.
The 86 at Maxwell's?
Yeah.
That's a great fucking record.
Yeah.
Wow.
Glenn Morrow ran a record label called Bar None.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, put out that record in question. And, or was involved. He made the tape.
Yeah.
And his partner came to us and said, would you like to make a record? And we had a cassette that was for sale at our shows for like a year that we were selling many, many copies of.
Which had been reviewed in People magazine.
How'd that happen?
That is a really good question.
We don't know.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people
But didn't you get some notoriety?
Yeah.
At that time for your performances and then for the answering machine stuff?
Yeah, we had the Style Song service that was kind of its own phenomenon.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting way for people to find out about us because they weren't, speaking of performance art, it sort of fell into that category of...
How did it work?
You just played a song.
There was a number available?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a phone machine in my kitchen and we just changed it every day. And
it was very hard to reach John at that time because you had to sit through the whole. I'm listening to like me singing, going like, "Pick up the phone."
God damn it! Yeah, it was very easy. I started my sort of like Michael Stipe aloofness at that moment. But a lot of people would call it up, and it was sort of its own thing. Like people didn't necessarily even think of us as a band; they just thought of us as this phone line for a long time. And but. A lot of, I don't know, like it's probably not that different than being a comedian who gets like celebrated by other comedians. There was a lot of other people, like Chris Butler from The Waitresses and Jewel Shear, who's a big songwriter. They would get us gigs at club. Like our first show at Danceteria was like a gig that was arranged by somebody we didn't know.
Right.
It was just like, how can you be that nice?
Right.
Like, who gets gigs for other people they don't know?
Yeah, yeah.
But we kind of had this, people went out of their way to help us in this way. Maybe they felt sorry for us. I'm not sure exactly, but it was just like, it was like a very unusual.
Maybe we should help the two nerdy kids.
Yeah,
the kid with the accordion.
Right.
Yeah.
Lord knows they need help. But like Marshall, same with like Marshall Crenshaw. These are people that really helped us at very specific times.
Crenshaw did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but we didn't know them. So it was like,
we had fans.
Yeah, they were, I guess they were fans and they were sort of expressing that, but it was
So they would bring you in to open for them, or you do
not even open. Well, that was the other thing is we decided very early on we didn't want to open for people.
Yeah,
and that was a big mistake.
Oh yeah.
Well,
kept you out of the live gig.
It's a morale killer. I think doing a lot. Touring, opening for another band can really crush your spirit.
So you knew well enough that you were sensitive and that you didn't want to necessarily
we
watch people
we
walking
just wanted
in.
To keep it fun. I think like early on we decided we wanted it, as long as it was fun, it seemed like it would be worthwhile. And it's very hard to keep it fun.
Yeah, So you do the deal with Bar None.
Bar None, and they put out this album.
Your first album.
Yeah. And the first video on it we made with this guy, Adam Bernstein, who's now a very, very successful, and he's a very gifted director. Yeah. But he basically created 30 Rock. He's like did the pilot for 30 Rock and does lots of. Yeah, Adam is a big wheel in comedy stuff.
Yeah,
and I guess he worked on.
He did your video.
He did.
Yeah, we did the first videos for pretty much zero money.
But that was when MTV was relevant, right? Or
it was brand new, and it was extremely important at like sort of breaking new acts. And we shot our videos it was very smart of Adam. We shot them on film, so they looked really different and distinctly unsweaty compared to a lot of the other, like the Rolling Stones would be like shooting a video in like some hot, weird TV studio looking very uncomfortable. Yeah. And then our video would come on, and it would look sort of like this sort of beautiful, even though it was made for 2 cents.
Yeah. I think it also had the quality. I mean, it looks nice now, but it looked sort of archaic too. It
kind of looked like Hard Day's Night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like we were these clearly kind of like operating with less money, scrappy guys, and they really stood out because when we did get played on MTV, it would be between like the Whitney Houston and the White Snake videos. And so it was like it really stuck. And so for the people who would be inclined to like this, they were like, that was like, oh, here's something
I can relate to.
Yeah,
right. These two guys.
Yeah.
Who are the weirdos with the accordion?
Exactly. Yeah.
And but the second one we did with Adam, which it was unclear whether it would even get played at all, but ended up being like the real breakthrough was the Don't Let's Start video, which we did at in Queens at the World's Fairgrounds, which is sort of semi-abandoned, and now sadly is super demolished.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really. I think they like sort of took down the gates, and people just come in and.
Don't Let's Start was on the first record.
It was on the first record. It was one of those records that some DJ in Pittsburgh started playing it just on his own.
That's a huge song, right?
Yeah, it came out pretty good.
But I mean, it did well on the charts.
Well, we've never had a #1 hit in the U.S. Like we have yet to have an actual.
But at that time, the alternative
in the alternative scene.
But that was just the alternative was
college radio.
It was called college radio. It was the college charts or college rock was what it was called, and it didn't. So it didn't even have the name that it would ultimately.
But
have.
I remember hearing that song everywhere. Is that just? Is it just that sticky?
It was played in a lot of bars in the East Village. I can tell you that.
Well, maybe that would have been it. What year was that? 86?
87.
No, I'm still out here. I mean, was it used on a...
it was on K-Rock. It was on K-Rock.
Okay.
That's right. And in fact, the first time we came to California, that was the very first time we'd ever been anywhere where people had heard of us before we even arrived. Like everywhere else, we built up an audience. And then by the time we were touring enough, we got all the way here. And it was really different because, like, there was a crowd of people waiting for us, which felt completely new.
And then you had, the second record was what do I know? But I think Anna Ng was huge, right?
And
same thing. It was a college chart kind of thing.
In my mind, it's like you couldn't escape that song.
Yeah, it's
it was everywhere in my head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were also like in the places where it was going to. I mean,
I guess
I'm sure
was.
I'm sure there's a song right now. If you lived in Bushwick, there's a song right now by. Shma and the Shmas.
That's doing that to people.
I mean,
but I just remember. I guess so. But I'm surprised that it didn't chart on the regular charts.
It didn't, but it felt to us like we were superstars. I mean, that definitely.
But speaking of gatekeepers, like there was like the major labels were really more concerned about holding on to the things that had already worked for them. Like this is when like Rod Stewart was still on the charts.
Yeah,
we were. The people on the chart, on the real charts when we were coming up were formidable, like rock, stadium acts.
Sure.
So they had huge amount of money behind them. And I think the labels they were very reluctant to, I mean, that's what opened the door for all the indies was because they just didn't see didn't see any money there. You know?
But still, that you guys were part of that wave, though, that was pushing up against it, that maybe didn't break until the early 90s.
We sold a lot of records on an indie label. I mean, you know, Tom and Glenn at Bar None, they sold a lot of records. They sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands of records.
I think we did, at some point, we topped the CMJ chart.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And you were cut in for the appropriate amount of money?
Oh, yeah, we did. It was great.
But when did you switch labels?
We got signed to Elektra.
Why would you make that choice? Why wouldn't you stay with Bar None?
Well, there's this thing about, success success can bankrupt an indie label.
Right.
Like, they don't have the ability to ride the crazy up and down wave. I think, like, Glenn was happy to, get a huge, like, cash buyout from Elektra for whatever it was.
Because it's an easier way to make money.
Because also, like, what if the third album comes out and they paid us a huge advance and they print up 1 million copies and it doesn't sell? If you're an indie, that puts you straight out of business. Whereas if you're a major label, it's just like, oh, that's just another, that's one of 10 records that didn't work.
Right.
But as far as for our purposes, like as far as we were concerned, it was also an opportunity to go, this thing that we thought, we had this notion, I think, that this is what bands do, is they go to Europe and you can be a much bigger deal over there, and then you ride the wave back to, and that seems like there were a lot of bands that have been doing that.
I mean, we played in 88, 89, we played like, multiple tours of Germany, playing in like tiny towns.
Beer halls?
Yeah. And a lot of times it would be like
with an accordion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'd be like a GI, like American, like GI kids would come out to our shows. But they were super fun shows, but they were very, very strange.
So our third album, Flood, we had, international marketing and everything. That was a completely new thing. And
how did we do?
And we did actually chart we got on the top 10 in the UK. So that did work. They had enough machinery.
Sold a lot of records.
It was platinum.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was good.
Yeah.
And, but I think the thing is also, like, we had a very unneurotic relationship with, a lot of times, like, when you hear people talk about, like, dealing with their record label, it's like, the person who's talking is, like, clearly ambitious, like, they want to do good stuff, they want to be successful, they're not crazy.
Yeah.
And the record companies, they want it to be successful, but it's like, it's like trying to get, like, pandas to mate in captivity, like, you have these two entities that, like, just for unless the circumstance is exactly right, like, they just can't get it going.
Yeah.
And like, I think we were just very lucky that, like, we were old enough that we weren't afraid that the thing we were doing was going to get, like, ruined. I think bands aren't wrong. When bands are nervous about, like, the thing they're doing being ruined by a label, they're not wrong. Like that happens all the time. But I think we felt like we had done enough that, like, and we were so self-defined that even though there might be people, having all sorts of big ideas about what we should do or how we should do it, it's like we were going to be we were going to steer our own ship, and it didn't really matter, what Mr. Guy in the executive suite says. It's like, he doesn't run this band.
And did you stay with Elektra for a while?
We were on there for almost a decade.
How many records?
I think we made four
albums. Yeah.
And then what happened?
Basically, like, they offered us a lesser advance, which is what they do when they sort of ask you to leave.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that happened with Elektra was that the people the team that had signed us had all sort of moved on.
Right.
So there was almost nobody left.
Yeah.
The president had left. Like, it was a very different company by the end of that.
And
period.
also, like, grunge had come and gone.
Yeah.
And hip hop had arrived. So the whole cultural.
Did anyone sample They Might Be Giants?
Yeah, I think they thought we were easy enough to deal with, and we were.
But
hard.
did anyone use your songs in hip hop?
I'm trying to remember.
There are some. Girl Talk samples. They Might Be Giants a bunch, but I don't know who else. But those aren't legal samples. So.
Oh, okay.
We're waiting for the one to be cleared.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's still in the future. Is what it is. Yeah.
DJs, listen to the sound of my voice. Sample They Might Be Giants.
There's so much stuff that you
easy
can sample.
Terms.
Yeah,
we got some hot beats.
The fact that you steered your own ship and you maintained the integrity of your sound and all that stuff, and you eventually added musicians and became a real band. Was that a big day for you to have a drummer?
That was kind of a heart attack for us, actually.
Well, the thing is, the weird thing is, Oh, there was a
you tour with a band now, right? You're
Yeah.
For years.
There's guys in our band. We have guys in our band who've been with us for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're still the new guys.
You're that band now.
Yeah. It's like, when you're in this band for 35 years, you can talk about what we're going to do.
You're like Daryl Jones.
The second season of Laughing really is the one you have to check out. Admit it.
It's like Daryl Jones.
Joanne Worley, a genius.
The bass player in the Rolling Stones has been with him
Daryl Jones, right.
25 years. Because I said that to
Right.
Keith. I said, I miss Bill. He's like, Bill, Daryl's been with us for 25 years. I'm like, he's the bass player.
Right. Well, yeah, we had a documentary film made about us. It was a very interesting thing to see. But one of the things that's weird about it is that there's this whole sort of kerfuffle created in the movie about how like our core audience didn't like the band. And I just want to say for the record, just as a sort of a corrective, or if that's the term, like as soon as we got a live band, the shows became like a complete celebration. It was like there was nothing missing.
Right.
But it did change what we like when we were doing.
It's like me moving from the garage. It's like like we said earlier. What were we talking about when when you moved to, like you're no longer in Brooklyn.
Right.
Like people are weird about change because then they have this conflict within them. It's like, well, I knew them when they. Right. And it's always going to be like, we're better because I'm me and we were younger and they were different.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were a duo, we talked a lot between songs.
Yeah.
And a lot of that talking would sort of probably fall under the category of like comedy. I mean, like there was a lot of like, just like.
When it was just the two of you?
Yeah. We're just shooting the shit on stage.
Right.
And saying things that, thank God.
Trying to be funny.
Yeah. We were trying to be funny and it was funny, and it was like, sort of like a nervous kind of funny, but it was also like a lot of times it was stuff that like I'm very grateful there was no YouTube. I'd like to thank YouTube for not existing at that time.
Yeah.
But and
or
then
phones that you could record on. Yeah.
And then we got the band, and when we got the band, suddenly like when you're on stage with like 5 other guys, you kind of want to keep the music going. Like you're not just going to sit there and like filibuster about like what you think of
while they're waiting.
Three signs.
Oh, some guys will do that though. I don't know if they do it as much anymore.
We still do plenty.
We got back into it. We got back into it, and that's the best part.
So you try to crack up the band?
Oh, we absolutely.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, that's the we try. It's just it's good.
And how did the stuff like having the theme song for Malcolm? That must have been a nice paycheck for a long time. Yeah, that was
kind of a page turned around the turn of the century, I guess, for us, because we'd had a band for a while, but we had still not done, as I said, we were holding off on doing other projects, like not just the kids' music, but commercial stuff of any kind.
You mean the actual product support?
Yeah.
But
also doing movie music. I mean, I think
you held off on it.
We would have liked to have done movie music earlier than we did.
One thing we noticed the moment we left Elektra was that our phone. We actually got the phone calls that came in for us.
Oh, right.
So all of a sudden,
they've been keeping from
right.
you.
It's like well, maybe that would be a better project for Bjork.
Right.
Like
but part of it. I mean, earlier we had been just saying no to everything.
Because of the sellout issue.
Because of the sellout issue, which was just like a youngster kind of thing.
But we ended up doing a ton of TV stuff. We did like the Daily Show. We recorded the Bob Mold's song for the Daily Show, and we so like the ba ba da ba da. That's
you guys.
That's us.
Yeah.
And we did.
They still use that.
They do.
Yeah.
They use a remix version of our recording now instead of
the original. Yeah.
Instead of the original, but it's still us. And but it's really Bob. I mean, he wrote the theme.
Sure.
Although we wrote the second part of the theme.
Yeah.
And then we did like, the Malcolm thing, which like was huge. I mean,
was that a pre-existing song or you asked to write that?
It was like a half-written song and it only had to be 30 seconds long. So it was like, I got it right here. And it kind of fit the energy of the show because we knew it was about boys.
But that's a nice payout, right? I mean,
well, they didn't pay us a ton of money at first, but it's, over time, it's, because it's in syndication and the residuals and stuff like that, we get it.
You still get it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The long envelopes arrive.
Yeah. But that was, I mean, that's the main thing because we entered this whole time, which is of doing things where nobody even knows it's us.
Yeah.
People don't know it's us doing
the Daily Show.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. But I don't know a lot of things.
Well, almost nobody. Even our fans, a lot of them don't know that we're doing that.
Like what other things? What are the
the Malcolm theme?
Sure.
Amazing Vacation Homes.
Oh yeah. What is that? That's
It's on the Travel Channel.
Oh, you did the theme?
Yeah. We did a lot. We did a lot of themes for like these sort of cable-y shows. You know, I mean,
because you just can knock them out, or what?
Yeah. We did. You know,
your go-to guys for that stuff.
We tried. We were
approached. more in the beginning of this century, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we got a Grammy for the Malcolm thing, and then all of a sudden, then the phone's ringing off the hook. So, because it's like you're actually L.A. You know, like you're in the mix in Hollywood. You win a Grammy, it's like you're
and at that time
you're token LA people.
And yet, how did you reconcile selling out with what you were about to be doing?
Well, the thing that was nice about the TV stuff is that it was faceless. Like that it wasn't really, you know,
you weren't singing.
It was the reputation, by and large.
But I think we also just got over the notion of like we also did a whole string of Dunkin' Donuts ads.
Oh yeah,
and we were hired to basically do us. You know, it's like we want you guys.
Yeah,
we weren't identified in the ads.
But people knew.
But my wife instantly, when she saw it, she was like...
But as a project, that was a blast. Like, we were doing original...
I like Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, part of the thing that's fun about doing stuff like TV themes is if you're actually doing some... It's one thing to, like, license your band's established hit and kind of, like, have somebody take your vibe and brand it on their thing.
Right.
It's something else, like, to actually collaborate with people and make something new. It's fun to make something new.
Well, and also, like, if you can, confidently... be okay with the product. It's just part of the work on some level. It's like this is another revenue stream, and someone's got to compose this stuff, and there is challenges to it that I think ultimately inform other things.
Well, but also like just to be just get right down to it, like if there was ever a band that was like part of television, They Might Be Giants is clearly a band that has watched television.
Yeah.
And like growing up with
that's how you're going to reconcile it. We are television.
No, but I mean, like just like growing up with like
we can't sell out because we're in.
We're inside the television. No, I mean, just like growing up with like the Twilight Zone theme, growing up with like TV music. It's like such a part of your consciousness.
So I think it's a very personal thing to decide what your threshold for being compromised artistically.
Well, what's
there's a ton of things we definitely don't do.
It's something you feel and you know it when you feel it, but it's hard to define it.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a concept that comes up on this show a lot, which is like being liked the wrong way, which I think is a really interesting idea because I think it's especially true of. I mean, I know that comedians like they'll feel like it's like. They were laughing, but they were laughing the wrong way. I think musicians are even more tuned into that idea. Like you really want to be liked. It's got to be right. It's got to be the right way. Like,
but if you're like Bruce Springsteen, and you've got some Yahoo meathead fans,
I hadn't thought about that.
You're gonna have to. Make peace with that a little bit, because I went to a Hold Steady show years ago.
I would never think about that. I just met him. He's such a nice man.
Oh, he's great. But like, there is, an element, there's a broad sort of poetic element to the Bruce oeuvre.
Right.
So, the working class, what he means to people. And it transcends politics. But, I went to a Hold Steady show at South by Southwest early on before I even knew who they were. And I'm like looking at some of these people and I'm like, this, Craig is such a sensitive, thoughtful, kind of embrace. And like, these guys are frat guys. Like, and there's got to be an element like, no, there they are again.
Really?
But
is that really true? The Hold Steady, I would think the Hold Steady audience would be like the highest percentage of like lit majors.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, that album that got big for them, was a big record.
Yeah.
It was a big college record. And I mean, Cobain talked about it too. He wrote a fucking song about it.
Right.
That, that these people aren't going to understand the poetry or the sensitivity or even the tone
of what
you're doing.
I feel like I shield myself. I mean, if there is an element of people in the audience.
Well, I don't know that you guys have them. I
don't do, although we do have a thing online where if we ever say like, I'm really interested in like evolution and there's somebody who writes in on the Twitter feed who's like, I thought you guys were cool.
Oh,
right. The YouTube comments on like anything related to science is like
on anything.
Forget it.
On anything, period. So we talked a little bit about the children's stuff, but wait, what is do you have a relationship with Disney?
No,
we did. We put out we
did 3 projects.
We did a bunch of kids projects for DVDs for Disney, and they
themed. Asked you?
Yeah.
After the first album, the first kids album, like took off, like they were like very, very interested in working with us.
And what happened to that?
It was. We did it. It was great. It was a fun thing.
Was it fun to be part of that legacy in a way?
Well, it was the president of Disney was this nutty rogue dude named David Agnew who was just basically sticking his neck out for us because he allowed us to do it our own way. So it really didn't feel like the mouse's 3 fingers were pushing down on our heads.
We had total control over everything, and David made sure that was what it was. So we were in a very unique spot. I mean, we had done, it's a big difference to work for Disney and then work with Disney.
Right.
There's a big distinction to be made.
Sure.
And we did some job that I think I think technically we were fired from for some Disney animated movie, and they just were like, "This, we don't like this at all."
Really?
Please revise this.
God, that would seem like a whether it's Disney or not, it would seem like you guys could do almost all the music for. You could be like the new Randy Newmans for Pixar and stuff.
Well, we say that one more time.
You guys could be the next Randy Newmans.
We just did the song for the SpongeBob musical, and they did a very great bunch of staging for it. That really turns it into a big number in the show, and it's very gratifying. Like we're in this amazing company of like David Bowie did a song for it, and there's an Aerosmith song, and so there's all these big deal show business people in it. But it was nice that we actually got a chance to be part of it. I mean, we're essentially still an indie act. So
and you're open to doing that kind of stuff.
Well, we'd love to do more stuff where we just send them the demo and then we get to just sit around the house.
We're especially into the big money stuff.
So you'd like to do big money stuff where you don't have to travel.
Yeah.
And also that's easy.
Easy.
Easy's good. I don't know. How do you get those?
How do we get that job?
I don't know. Maybe someone will hear this and say,
wait.
We have just the kind of thing where you can sit down and make a lot of money.
I also wanted to mention Netflix.
Yeah. Okay. You need some Netflix money?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how these if you're around long enough, you see these cycles of crazy money happening.
Yeah.
I feel like right now it's especially crazy money time
for some people.
All these things.
Yeah.
For these things.
For Netflix. Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy to be making a living.
Right.
Ultimately.
I think we're all, everybody's in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
But, I remember when all the .com first generation stuff came around.
Yeah.
And we would get flown out to LA and get some tour of some weird or San Francisco and be some place that's every single thing is white.
Yeah.
And there's a guy.
Sure. There's a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah. Just to go in the house.
Yeah.
And it's who did that? Mr. Show did such a great riff on that with Dave Cross playing the guy who invented the delete button.
Oh yeah.
And the goats and the tofuti breaks. That was genius.
The amount of venom that he has for that is very satisfying.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there'll be more good times like that ahead.
Sure, more free money. You're hoping
more
for.
delete buttons.
It'll be some Bitcoin-y thing, probably.
I don't even know where you buy those or how you get your money
You got to get
back.
on the dark web.
I'm not. Okay, that's it.
That's where I get my drugs.
Oh, see, Mom, you waited till the end.
She's got bored. She stopped listening. Now we can talk.
So what's going on? You guys, you got a new record, or it just came out in January?
Yes. Yeah.
What's that one called?
It's called I Like Fun.
And it's your 39th record?
39th.
Yep.
49th.
But what's weird, and speaking of things going in cycles, is it's getting really good. Like 4 records ago, we had a record that got really good reviews, and this one's getting really good reviews too. So we're just riding the good vibes of the good reviews.
Well, good. It is a lot of records. Are you doing another kids record?
No.
Okay. Wow. That was very
you said that very quickly.
Final.
Who knows?
It's over. No more. We've done
it. Right.
Who could say, Mark? Who could say?
If the money was right and it didn't take a lot of work.
But you see, the problem is that we have a commitment to quality that.
Oh, that's what's
slowing us down.
That's the rub, man.
Right.
For the simple, easy, huge money on the couch.
Well, the SpongeBob was a great nexus of the quality was good.
Yeah.
And it was an easy.
I have complete confidence you guys to continue on. You seem well.
Well, congratulations to you on all your stuff.
Well, thank you. It was a long time coming, and
it was,
and I'm almost enjoying it.
I like the happy Mark.
Oh boy, yeah.
Are you coming out to New York anytime?
I was going to come out in a couple of weeks, but
let's have an overpriced meal together.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll get the art. Let's get the artists together.
Our treat.
Okay.
Excellent.
Deal. Thanks, Johns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. That was that. That was them. That was They Might Be Giants. That was fun, though, right? They feel like old friends to me. You know, they've been around. Their music has been around. They developed with me in their thing, and I developed over here in my thing. And occasionally, I'd listen to their music, and then I got to talk to them. All right. Well, before I go, for the last time talking in this garage, we're about 2 weeks away from my A Few Parts of the World tour in Europe. Go to WTFpod.com/tour to get venue and ticket information for London, Stockholm, Oslo, Amsterdam, and Dublin. And I guess I'll try to play a little guitar. I don't have much equipment here, but I might as well play guitar for the last time in here. Oh, no. Okay. Boomer lives!